Alright, so we are back for another lesson, and in this specific lesson we'll be covering triads. Now, when you hear the word triad, you might be tempted to think that it is a 3-note chord, and you'd be right. But it's not just any 3-note chord that is a triad. For example, if I was to play this C, and then C sharp, and then D, we have this sound. We have a very tense sound, but it is not a triad. Or if I was to play this, it's not a triad, although it sounds beautiful. So, what is a triad? Well, a triad is simply a 3-note chord that is built by stacking intervals of thirds. And that may sound like some nerdy mumbo jumbo, but bear with me for a second. So, let us build a major triad using the skip note method we covered earlier on. So we have C, skip D, and then play E, skip F, and then play G. And we have this chord right here, C major. And we're gonna pedal back a little bit to the previous section, which is intervals. So when we look at the interval between this C and this E, we have a major third, if you remember, because we have 1, 2, 3, the distance between the first, the second, and the third notes of the major scale. So the first interval is a major third. Now let's ignore this C for a moment, and we're gonna treat this E as our new starting point. We have 1, 2, and 3. So this is also a third of some kind. And if you want to find out what it is, I'm just going to duplicate this and put it side by side. And if you remember, when you take a major third down a semitone, we get a minor third. So we have a minor third on top of this major third. So this interval right here is a minor third, lowercase m and 3. So even within a major triad, we still have a minor third, but it's placed in a way that it doesn't sound dark. Again, this is a major triad. So this is what I mean when I say that a triad is a 3-note chord that is built by stacking intervals of thirds. And we mainly have 4 types of triads. We have a major triad, which we just covered. We have a minor triad, an augmented triad, and a diminished triad. And by the way, the distance between this C and this G is still that of a perfect fifth, because when we look at the bigger picture, we still compare it to the roots. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So this is still our perfect fifth in the bigger picture. But when we start looking at intervals for what they are with different starting points, like we did with this E and G, then we will start saying different things. Quick shameless plug, but if you feel like supporting the channel, then I recently dropped a multi-kit with samples, textures, 144 guitar chords, presets, one-shots, all that good stuff. So feel free to check it out to support the channel. And yeah, let's get back to the lesson. To get our minor triad, we're simply gonna duplicate this major triad, put it to the side. We're gonna take the major third and flat it to become a flat third or a minor third. And now it sounds like this. So the main difference between our major triad and our minor triad is simply one note. And if you pay close attention, you'll realize that these major and minor triads are named after the major and minor thirds because they are the ones that do the heavy lifting. Because in a major triad, we have a major third. So it is that major third that gives that major sound. And when we take it down by semitone, we get a minor third, which gives it that minor sound. So the fifth here is just there to complete the triad. It's not really there doing any important work. Again, not saying that the fifth is useless, because the next 2 triads we'll be covering will actually be looking at the fifth a little bit more. So let us take a closer look at the intervals of the minor triad. And we just discussed that this was a minor third, because it was a major third that has been taken down by semitone to become a minor third. But what about the interval that is on top of it? Well, this one right here, if I was to duplicate it and put it there, it fits perfectly into the major third. So this interval right here is a major third. So we have a major third on top of a minor third this time. So as you can see, even in a minor triad, we still have a major third, but it doesn't sound happy, does it? Because the context is different. This is why earlier on I told you not to worry too much about intervals, because when they're in different contexts, they sound different. And this also applies with triads, because this may sound bright and this may sound dark, at least in isolation, but when you start using them in different contexts, you'll see that the major may sound dark in certain places and the minor may sound bright in a different case. So when you start exploring different sounds, you'll see that it's really just a matter of context.